The year is 1986. Larry Fink is the undisputed star of Wall Street. He's the golden boy, the genius who basically invented mortgage-backed securities, the very instruments that would, decades later, shatter the global economy. He's making millions. He's untouchable. Until one morning, he isn't. In a single fiscal quarter, Larry Fink loses $100 million. Now, in today's world of trillion-dollar bailouts, that sounds like a drop in the bucket. But in 1986, that was an extinction-level event for a career. He didn't lose it because he was lazy. He didn't lose it because he was gambling. He lost it because he, quote, didn't see the risks. He was flying a plane and didn't realize the engines had already flamed out 5 miles back. That humiliation didn't break him. It did something much, much worse. It birthed a monster. It turned Larry Fink into a man obsessed with a single, dangerous concept: certainty. He became a man obsessed with predicting every possible disaster, every market twitch, every black swan event before it even had a name. He didn't want to play the market anymore. He wanted to calculate it. Fast forward to 2020. The world is melting down. Markets are cratering. People are panicking. And the U.S. Treasury, the most powerful financial arm on earth, doesn't call the president for a solution. They don't call a committee of professors. They call Larry. The data confirms a terrifying reality that most people are too scared to admit. They didn't just ask for advice. They handed the keys of the global economy to a private company in New York. Specifically, they handed them to an algorithm, Aladdin, that already knows what you're going to buy tomorrow before you even wake up. Most people think the government runs the economy. They think the politicians are at the steering wheel. They are wrong. While you've been worrying about index funds and interest rates, a single machine has quietly integrated itself into every facet of your existence. It manages $21 trillion. Let that number sink in. That is more than the GDP of almost every nation on this planet combined. By the time this video ends, you'll realize that your retirement fund, your rent price, and even the result of the next election aren't being decided by people in suits. They're being decided by lines of code. Welcome to the world of BlackRock, the final boss of the global economy. Well, to understand how we got here, we have to admit that the old world of economics is dead. It's buried, and we are living in the ghost of its remains. History proves that in the old days, if a company failed, it was because they made a bad product or a bad bet. There was a natural cycle. There was friction. If you were a bad pilot, you crashed the plane. If you were a bad baker, your shop closed. It was harsh, but it was honest. But in 2026, the rules of common sense are a liability. We've entered a state of permanent support. We've created a system where the plane is no longer allowed to crash because the plane is now the size of the entire planet. Think about your daily life for a second. You wake up, you go to the grocery store, you see dozens of brands. You see Pepsi, Coke, Nestle, Kellogg's. You see a wall of colorful boxes and you think, wow, I have so many choices. But that choice is a carefully manufactured illusion. Actually, if you look at the top shareholders of every single one of those companies, the ones that are supposed to be competitors, you see the same 3 names over and over again: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They are the big 3. But here's the thing no one tells you. BlackRock is the leader of the pack. They aren't just an investment firm, they are the infrastructure of ownership itself. In the 90s, if you wanted to invest, you called a broker, you looked at charts, you guessed, you felt like an adventurer. Today, that's prehistoric. It's like trying to use a paper map in the age of Google Maps. The data confirms that over 90% of all trades are now executed by algorithms. We aren't trading against humans anymore. We aren't even trading against smart people. We are trading against a hive mind that can read every news article, every social media post, and every bank transaction in milliseconds. Think about that. Before a human being can even finish reading a headline, Aladdin has already bought or sold $1 billion worth of assets based on that story. You aren't playing poker. You're playing a game where the other guy can see your cards, knows your heart rate, and has already simulated every possible outcome 10,000 times. When the government stepped in during the crash, they didn't just give out stimulus checks. That was the distraction for the masses. The real action was happening behind the curtain. They used BlackRock to buy up corporate bonds. Think about that. The government used a private firm to decide which companies lived and which companies died. It wasn't the free market, it was a selected market. You were told it was a bailout for the people. The reality? It was a stress test for the machine, and the machine won. If you're still trying to build wealth using the advice your parents gave you, save money, buy a house, invest in a diversified portfolio, you're playing a game that has already been solved by a supercomputer. Observe the world around you. Why is everything getting more expensive while the quality gets worse? Why does it feel like every product is designed to break and every service is a subscription? It's not just inflation, it's the result of a system that prioritizes risk-free corporate growth over human survival. Now, let's talk about the specific enemy. And I want to be clear here. The enemy isn't just one person. It's not just Larry Fink. The enemy is Aladdin. A.L.A.D.I.N. It stands for Asset, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network. It's a boring name for something that is essentially a digital god. Here's exactly how this enemy profits from your behavior. Aladdin is a risk management tool. That sounds responsible, right? Everyone wants to manage risk. But what does risk mean to an algorithm? To Aladdin, risk is anything that makes corporate profits unpredictable. If you have a local coffee shop that's thriving, that's a risk to the big chains. If you own your home outright, that's a risk to the rental market. If you have enough savings to quit your job, that is a risk to the labor market. Every time you pay your rent to a giant corporate landlord, Aladdin has already calculated the maximum amount you can pay without becoming homeless. They call it optimized pricing. You call it barely surviving. You feel the physical stress of this every day, don't you? You feel like you're running faster and faster on a treadmill, but you're staying in the same place. Your salary goes up by 3%, but your rent goes up by 10. Your car insurance goes up by 15. Your groceries go up by 20. That's because the system is designed to keep you in the Goldilocks zone of debt. Just enough money to keep you working, but not so much that you stop consuming. You are being balanced like a line item on a spreadsheet. Actually, it's more calculated than that. The data confirms that BlackRock is one of the largest investors in the companies that buy up single-family homes across the globe. Think about the us versus them dynamic here. You are competing for a starter home against an algorithm that has access to infinite capital, 0% interest rates, and zero emotions. It doesn't care if you want a backyard for your kids. It only cares about the yield. And here's the kicker. You are probably funding your own replacement. If you have a 401k or a pension, there's a massive chance it's being managed by BlackRock. They take your hard-earned savings, they charge you a fee for the privilege, and then they use that money to outbid you on the house you wanted to buy. It's a perfect, closed loop. You pay them to make your life harder. You fund the machine that makes your dreams impossible. Realize this. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. It's a giant vacuum cleaner designed to suck up every last drop of risk and volatility, which are just fancy words for human freedom, and replace it with predictable corporate profit. And you? In the eyes of Aladdin, you aren't a human being with a story. You're just a data point. To truly understand the scale of this, we need to completely shift our perspective. Stop thinking of BlackRock as a bank. That's too small. Stop thinking of them as an investment firm. That's a 20th century term for a 21st century monster. Imagine the global economy is a giant, a massive, stumbling, clumsy giant. For 100 years, we argued about who should be the brain of that giant. Should it be the government? Should it be the free market? We had wars over this. But while we were arguing about the brain, BlackRock became something much more important: the central nervous system. The brain might make a decision, the government might pass a law, but the nerves are what actually carry the signal. The nerves are what move the muscles. BlackRock isn't the one making every single law in Washington, but they are the invisible wires connecting every bank, every insurance company, every pension fund, and every massive corporation on the planet. If the wire snaps, the giant dies. In financial physics, this is what we call systemic importance. In plain English, it means they have made themselves so vital that they are no longer subject to the rules of the market. They are too big to fail on a level we have never seen before. If Aladdin were to go offline tomorrow, the entire world would go dark within 48 hours. Your credit card wouldn't work at the gas station. Your bank account would be a useless number on a screen. The grocery store wouldn't get its shipments because the shipping company's insurance is managed by an algorithm that just stopped responding. They have made themselves indispensable. This is financial gravity. Everything is being pulled toward the center. This is why we see circular ownership. It's the ultimate glitch in the capitalist system. In a normal world, Airline A competes with Airline B. They lower prices to win your business. That's friction. That's competition. But if BlackRock is the largest shareholder of both airlines, why would they want them to compete? If Airline A wins and Airline B loses, BlackRock stays the same. But if they both raise prices, BlackRock wins. Aladdin prefers a smooth world, a world where there is no friction, a world where prices stay high, wages stay low, and everything is predictable. Observe the ESG movement: environmental, social, and governance scores. On the surface, it sounds beautiful. We want to save the planet. But look closer. ESG is a filter. It's a way for the central nervous system to decide which companies get blood, which is capital, and which companies are starved. If a company doesn't play by the rules of the machine cuts off the nerves. It's not about the environment, it's about control. It's about making sure every cell in the giant's body reacts to the same signal at the same time. If you control the nervous system, you don't need to be the brain. You just wait for the brain to try and move, and then you decide how that movement actually feels. Let's look at a real-world example of the machine in action. This is where it gets scary, because this isn't a theory, it's a historical record. In March 2020, the world stopped. You remember it. The silence in the streets. The markets didn't just drop, they evaporated. Within weeks, the stock market had lost 1/3 of its value. Most human investors were frozen. They were staring at the news, trying to figure out if this was the end of the world. But Aladdin doesn't feel fear. Aladdin doesn't care about lockdowns. While Alex was staring at his screen, paralyzed, Aladdin was running thousands of Monte Carlo simulations every single second. It was digging through the data of every crash and every plague in the last 200 years. It realized something before the government did. The government had to print money. There was no other path. And because Aladdin knew the burr was coming, it started buying. It bought the dip of a lifetime while everyone else was panic selling. But here's the part they don't tell you in the business news. When the Federal Reserve finally decided to step in and save the market, they realized they had a problem. They didn't have the technology to buy thousands of different corporate bonds. They are a government agency. They are slow. So the government hired BlackRock to do it for them. Let that sink in. The U.S. government, the entity that prints the money, hired a private firm to spend that money. Think about the checkmate here. The algorithm told BlackRock to buy. Then the government hired BlackRock to buy even more. They essentially front-ran the United States government. They knew exactly what the government was going to buy because they were the ones doing the buying. By the time the recovery happened, they had seen their assets explode by trillions. They didn't just survive the crisis, they owned the recovery. This isn't just good business. This is the ghost in the machine. It's the silent force that moves the market before the market even knows it's moving. When you see a sudden, unexplainable spike in a stock price, you're not seeing natural forces of supply and demand. You are seeing the nervous system reacting to a spark before the brain even registers the pain. You are watching a god play a game of SimCity with your life. Now, here is the truth bomb. This is the part of the video where I'm supposed to give you a secret hack to beat the system. I'm supposed to tell you how to outsmart the giants. But I'm not going to do that, because I'd be lying to you. The hard truth is this: 99% of you watching this will still fail to escape the machine. You'll finish this video, you'll feel a little bit of strategic anger, and then you'll go right back to checking your banking app. You'll go back to playing the game. The ugly side of the solution is this: you cannot beat the machine by playing the machine's game. Admit it, you think that if you just find one hidden gem stock, you'll be the exception. You think you can be the glitch. You won't. The data confirms that even the best hedge fund managers in the world cannot consistently beat Aladdin. Over a long enough timeline, the machine wins every single time. So why do you think you can? The twist is that the machine wants you to try. It wants you to stay in the system. As long as you are invested, you are a data point that can be managed. Every time you trade, they win. Every time you borrow, they win. The Great Reset isn't a conspiracy where they take your house away with soldiers. It's a slow, algorithmic squeeze. It's a world where ownership is slowly replaced by access. You don't own your house, the bank does, and BlackRock owns the bank. You don't own your car, the finance company does, and BlackRock owns the finance company. You don't even own your attention, the social media algorithm does. And guess who the largest shareholder of those tech companies is? The pattern is clear. You are being managed. You are a line item on a spreadsheet designed by a man who lost $100 million in 1986 and vowed to never let unpredictability happen again. Take a breath. Now that you see the system, it can no longer control you in the same way. There is a strange kind of peace in realizing you're in a rigged game. The fear you feel, that technological dread, is actually your greatest weapon. Because once you realize the game is rigged, you stop being a player and you start being an architect. Actually, it's about de-shaming yourself. It's not your fault that you feel like you can't get ahead. It's not your fault that the American dream feels like it's behind a paywall. You aren't lazy. You aren't bad with money. You were simply fighting against a $21 trillion nervous system. Imagine trying to win a race against a jet engine while you're wearing lead shoes. That's what it's been like. Here's the turning point. The machine is powerful, but it has one fatal flaw. It is 100% logical. It only understands risk and reward through the lens of digital data. The moment you do something that doesn't fit the data model, the moment you opt for human value over algorithmic efficiency, the machine loses its grip on you. The algorithm can predict what you'll buy at the store. It can predict your mortgage payments, but it cannot predict a human being who decides to live a life that doesn't revolve around the system. History proves that no empire, no matter how automated, can survive a population that simply decides to stop playing along. You are not just a data point. You are the one thing the algorithm can't truly account for, a human being with a will. Now, let's talk about how to use that will. To win in 2026, you need 3 weapons: one mental, one immediate, and one systemic. Weapon 1. Mental. The shield. Adopt a zero-trust policy toward financial narratives. When you hear the news say, the market is doing great, ask yourself, great for whom? Stop measuring your life by the metrics the machine gives you. If your bank account is up, but your stress is through the roof, you're losing. Use your own metrics. Use human metrics. Weapon 2. Immediate. The sword. Aggressively deleverage. Debt is the wire the nervous system uses to control you. Debt is what makes you predictable. When you owe money, Aladdin knows exactly what you have to do tomorrow. You have to go to work. Every dollar of high-interest debt you pay off is a wire you've cut. The machine has no power over a person who doesn't owe it anything. A debt-free person is a glitch that the algorithm can't solve. Weapon 3. Systemic. The seed. Invest in Un-Aladdin-able assets. What does that mean? It means things the algorithm can't easily seize or devalue. Your skills, your local community, real physical relationships. Buy from the local farmer, not the corporate chain. Start a business that solves a human problem in your neighborhood, not a digital one for a global platform. Observe the rule of 3. If you do these 3 things, you become a ghost to the machine. You become something that cannot be optimized. But here's the checkmate question I want you to leave in the comments. If one machine manages the wealth of the entire world, who is actually in control? The people we elect, or the code that manages their money? At the end of the day, BlackRock is just a mirror. It's a reflection of our own collective obsession with safety and predictability. We wanted a world without risk. We wanted our retirements to always go up. So, we built a machine to take the risk away. But a world without risk is a world without freedom. You cannot have one without the other. The data is clear, but the choice is yours. You can be a cell in the giant's body, pulse when you're told to pulse, and die when the machine decides you're no longer efficient enough. Or you can realize that you are the giant. The machine only exists because we give it our money, our data, and our attention. The moment we stop, the central nervous system becomes nothing more than a box of wires in a dark room. Your legacy isn't the number in your bank account that an algorithm manages. Your legacy is the life you live outside of their wires. Next time, we're going to pull back the curtain on something even more invisible. Because even as you master this level, a new, more silent force is waiting in the shadows, one that destroys even those who follow all the rules. Until then, keep your eyes open.